Hello and welcome to episode number 32 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox, PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. My name is Esports and Gaming Insider Jason Fanelli, and we have a heck of a show for you today on what has been one heck of a slow week for video games. Understandable, of course. A little bit more going on in the world than just the video games that we play. But we definitely have some things still to talk about. It will not be a dry spell at all. So let's not waste any more time and get right into the 6 in 60 seconds. The VALORANT Champions League begins next Wednesday, January 27th with the Stage 1 Open qualifiers, and Nerd Street Gamers has been chosen to operate the competition. Nerd Street Gamers has also partnered with Philadelphia Parks and Recreation with an NBA 2K21 series beginning in February for ages 13 to 18. Meanwhile, Super Smash Bros. Melee Pro PPMD parts ways with Evil Geniuses after 7 years on the team. A second class action lawsuit against CG Projekt Red has been brought for the Cyberpunk 2077 launch. Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning is coming to the Switch in March ahead of the new DLC. And finally, Bungie's original Halo stat-keeping site will go offline next month for good. So get your stats now while you still can. Those were your 6 in 60 seconds. Yes, folks, they are the 6 in 60 seconds for the week. Kingdoms of Amalur coming to the Switch is great. Anybody who can play that game should. Really great RPG. The second class action lawsuit makes a lot of sense. I figure there will be more than 2. What was interesting about this one is it was reported by CD Projekt Red itself. That's the first we actually heard of it. And the 2 Nerd Street Gamers headlines here, one of which we'll dive into right now indirectly, but they really are making some moves, aren't they? Nerd Street Gamers really bringing the Philadelphia heat to the esports scene, and that is something that I really appreciate. So first, let's start off with the VALORANT Champions League. Now, this is the first ever VALORANT season-long competition. The game only came out June the 2nd of 2020, so it's barely out 6 months, or 7 months at this point. And Riot, after a couple of tournaments, the First Strike tournament in December being a notable one, and there was one with the FaZe clan that was also facilitated by Nerd Street. They're finally ready to start the actual competition beginning next Wednesday, January the 27th. Now, if you're not familiar with VALORANT, the game itself is a 5-on-5 tactical-based shooter. There are 13 rounds in each individual game, and you are either on offense or on defense. If you're on offense, you have to plant a bomb called a spike in one of 2 areas on a map and hope that you can get it to successfully detonate in order to win the round for your team. And if you're defending, then, well, you're defending. You will have 1 life per round, so you have 1 opportunity to get as many kills or defend as much territory as you can. If you lose, you're done for. If you die, if you're done for the round, and you then have to wait until the next round. And then after each, either the spike is successfully planted and explodes, the spike is successfully planted and defused, or one of either team is completely eliminated. A point is given to the winning team, and the round begins anew. There's also a small economy in the game that the better that you do, the more in-game cash that you earn, which can then purchase better weapons to use throughout the rest of the game. So it's a very strategic, very tactical type of shooter. It's not like your pray and spray, run and gun sort of games like a Call of Duty normal team deathmatch modes or Fortnite, where it's just basically survive on the island for as long as you can. There's a lot of tactics and teamwork that goes into VALORANT, which really makes it a very interesting esport to watch. Watching the team dynamics flow back and forth. Go back and watch some of those clips from the First Strike tournament on Twitch, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Really cool stuff. That was a great tournament to get to watch just before Christmas there. I do recommend that you catch that if you want to learn how VALORANT is going to work in this first ever competition for the game. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of what's going to be happening in this Champions Tour. Now I'm bringing this up because the first weekend, or the first weekend of competition that begins next Wednesday is Open Qualifier. If you are interested and you've been playing Valorant and you have a team that you want to maybe bring in and see if you can, kick some butt in this tournament, you have the ability to do that. And the way that you do that is you go to the Nerd Street Gamers events page. It's the very first thing that you can pick as of this taping, which is on Thursday night, the 21st. So I imagine that it'll still be that way until the Open Qualifier starts next Wednesday, the 27th. And what you do is you just sign your team up. There's all the rules are here, which we'll go through. There are 3 open qualifiers that you can sign up for. The first one is January 27 to 31. February 10 to 14 is number 2. And 24 to 28 is number 3. And then in between those weeks are closed qualifiers where the top 8 teams from the opens will advance to the closed, with the top teams from that then going to the Master Tournament at the end of March. So the way that this will work is there are a set of rules that you can look up on the Nerd Street Gamers event website detailing all of the different things that are available in the game and things that you cannot do. All agents are available, including the brand new agents. All maps are available in these competitions. There is a set schedule of qualifiers that is available to any prospective teams. It talks about custom lobbies and exploits or glitches. If there's glitches that are known, they will be banned. If there's glitches that aren't known, then obviously they will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. It talks about how the way your roster can be it can be built. Talks about your streaming and your broadcasting. Or co-broadcasting if you're a big-time Valorant streamer who's going to be playing in the game. It gets into how the map ban system work is, which is how you can ban certain maps. The top seed bans a map, then the low seed bans a map, and then goes back and forth in a best-of-3 setting. And then it will be using Battlefy, which is an online bracketing system, not unlike Smash.dg, and Discord for the organization portion of it. And if it's anything like how the first Strike Discord was run by Riot PR and the Story Mob, it'll be the most organized thing you'll ever see in your life. But anyhow, so it is a 128-team tournament. 128 teams will be in this Valorant tournament. It starts Wednesday, January 27th, and runs till the 31st, starting at 7 o'clock Eastern each day in the North American region. There is no cost, which is cool, but there are some things that you will need to provide if you want to be a part of this tournament. First, the team captain is responsible for registering the entire team, so whoever is your leader is the one who's going to have to bring you into the game. Secondly, each one of you have to be a certain rank, which is Immortal 1+ in either Episode 1, Act 3, or Episode 2, Act 1, with proof of this in order to be considered for the tournament. They don't want any schmucks like me just signing up out of nowhere, playing Valorant for the first time ever, and jumping into the competition. They want to see that you're at least, playing the game and good at it, so that the action on screen is, entertaining and fun, and people are engaged in it, and you're not just watching some guy running around shooting at the sky. And then you also must provide a career tab screenshot of that rank in-game in an Imgur post, IMGUR, and then add the URL to the required ticket field in the sign-up window when you go to sign up on the Nerd Street Gamers website. So as long as you provide all of those things, you will be able to get into the tournament. Again, capped at 128 teams. And the first matches are Wednesday at 7 o'clock. In fact, the schedule looks like this. From 7 to 9:30, will be the round of 128 on day 1, and then that will break down to the round of 64. So by midnight on day 1, we will have a round of 64, and then day 2, by midnight Eastern Time, we will have 16. And then from there, we will have Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up there a second. I'm reading this chart wrong. By day 1 at midnight, we will have 32 teams left out of the 128. 7 to 9:30 being the round of 128, and then 9:30 to midnight being the round of 64. 7 o'clock on day 2 will be the round of 32, and 9:30 day 2 will be the round of 16, leading us to the top 8, which will take place across days 3, 4, and 5 at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Only 4 matches on day 3, 2 matches on day 4, and the finals on day 5 will be the only match of the day in these open series. And then the top 8 teams are still invited to the closed qualifiers the next week. So that's what your schedule looks like. You're going to go from 128 down to 1. By the end of day 1, you'll be at 32. By the end of day 2, you'll be at top 8. And then top 8 will be broadcast throughout the rest of the weekend. So that's a ton of Valorant to watch in the first 2 days, then whittling down to the actual finals. It's like the entire March Madness doubled in a single weekend. That's pretty crazy. Captains must be present for the captains meeting in the Discord provided to all captains 30 minutes before their scheduled match time each day. Battlefy will run the bracketing, like I said earlier, and any teammates or captains will need to create an account on Battlefy as well to compete in the tournament, and then you'll get codes to register, and you'll do all those things. Any substitutions that you plan, you'll have up to 2 substitutions that you can use. They will have to be rank Immortal +1 or 1+ as well in order to be a part of the tournament. The official format of the qualifier is single elimination best of 3 all the way through. So first 1 to 2 wins, 2 game wins wins the match, and then moves on. The other team is eliminated. Bracket will be updated in real time. The specific rules we went into earlier about map bans and side selection and stuff like that. And then live support will be available to teams during the tournament through the report match issue on Battlefy. When matches are complete, team captains are responsible for providing a screenshot for their match summary and submitting it to Battlefy. And then after each match is complete, teams will be assigned a match automatically from the Battlefy platform, and then you'll have to do that. So basically, in order to get up to be a part of this tournament, get a couple of your guys together. If you think you're really good at Valorant, get your guys together, sign up at nerdstreetgamers.com/events. That's nerdstgamers.com/events. Get your team together, get everybody together, and then just log in to Nerd Street Gamers and sign up right there at the top of the screen. You have 3 open qualifier chances, remember, to get into this tournament, the Masters tournament, at the end of March. We're not really quite sure what's going on with that one yet, but we will learn as the tournament continues. And then this is only stage 1 of what plans to be, I believe, a 4-stage or 5-stage season-long tournament, with the ultimate finals taking place at the end of the year, hopefully in a live setting where people can watch live and cheer on their teams and all that other good stuff. Really, really hoping that we can get something like that going by the time this Valorant season ends, because I am one who is very, very much looking forward to live events again, even if this one's in LA or something like that. I'm hoping that if Nerd Street is the one facilitating all of this, that we will be seeing the Valorant Champions League finals in November and December here in Philly. That would be pretty cool. Just to clarify, it is a 3-stage timeline, with the first Challengers stage happening next week, with the Masters tournament in March. So there's 3 sets of online open qualifiers. This one in January, February, one April, May, and then July, August. The Masters tournament's happening in between March, June, and September. A last chance qualifier in October, and then the big championship in November and December. I think they could probably have that live somewhere. That would be really, really cool. I would really, really hope that we can make that happen. And then if we're talking about the format of how people qualify for Masters tournaments, 3 tournaments over 6 weeks, open qualifications for each tournament. The top 4 finish, and then bypass open qualifier for next event. Concludes with the Challenger Final, which I believe is the closed qualifiers. And then the top team from there will qualify for Masters. Each Masters tournament will have 3 from NA, 4 from EMEA, 2 from Brazil, 2 from Korea, 2 from Japan, 2 from the Oceanic, and 1 from Latin American. So 16 teams total in the Masters from across the world, all gaining points. And the more points that you gain, the better chance you have to get into the Champions, where 12 teams will qualify via the Masters, and the remaining 4 teams will be in that last chance qualifier in October. So if you're listening to this Riot Valorant team, I hope that you can have an event live, and I hope that it's here in Philly, facilitated by Nerd Street Gamers. We would love to be a part of that. I'd love to be a part of any live esports, to be honest with you. It's time to get that going once we all have our vaccines and everything is taken care of. But looking forward to a great Champions Tour, the first ever Valorant Champions Tour of its kind. Hoping that we get to see some great Valorant competition like we did at the first strike. And at the end of it all, one team will be hoisting a trophy and considering themselves the first ever Valorant champion, hopefully surrounded by confetti and screaming fans. So that is your Valorant Champions Tour information for the year 2021. And now it is time to talk about all the great games that are coming out this week. We have 4 big-time games for you to consider coming out this week. So get out those glasses, raise them high, and have a taste of what's on tap. Cyber Shadow, the retro Ninja Gaiden style platformer by Mechanical Head and Yacht Club Games, starts the week off on Tuesday the 26th with its retro action. And then we have 3 big-time titles to look at on the 28th, next Thursday. First, Disgaea 6, Defiance of Destiny for the strategy RPG crowd. The Medium by Bloober Team for those who like a good scare in their life. And Elysia, an interesting action platformer by Devolver, one of the games that really snuck up on me last summer that I'm really, really looking forward to. Elysia on the 28th. So Cyber Shadow, Disgaea 6, The Medium, and Elysia are the games that you should be looking at. But if there's something else, what's on tap for you? Yes, folks, that is what is on tap for the week. And I am happy to announce that On Tap this week is sponsored by Ghost Shaver, a brand new razor. It's supposed to be a full extension of the arm, allowing users to reach anywhere on the head, face, or body, featuring a precision cutting system, multiple rotary blades, and a patented handle design. The Ghost Shaver is perfect for any shave job that you need, whether it's on your head, on your face, or anywhere else on your body. The high-performing ion battery will shave wirelessly for 75 minutes, so even those long jobs can be handled by the Ghost Shaver. I had a chance to use it myself, and I am a changed man. This Ghost Shaver is absolutely very, very cool, and I thank them for sponsoring On Tap now and for the foreseeable future. Ghost Shaver, the first ever sponsor of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast. You can find them at ghostshaver.com. Now moving on to our second topic of the evening, let's talk about the Resident Evil Showcase. Resident Evil had a big old showcase going on this week. This happened on Thursday night, right before I recorded. Kind of laid out their plans for the 25th anniversary celebration, or at least the beginning of the 25th anniversary celebration of Resident Evil. Hard to believe that franchise is 25 this year. A lot of big franchises have anniversaries this year. 2021 is a big, big year for anniversaries, but we'll get into that a little bit later. First, let's talk about the Resident Evil Showcase. For you horror fans out there, there was a lot to sink your teeth into. First of all, we're starting with the fact that Resident Evil 8 Village was basically the focus of the entire thing. The 17-minute live stream featured Village for probably 12 or 13 of those minutes. A couple of gameplay demos, a trailer. We got to look at the castle that we have seen in previous trailers. We got to look at some of the characters who will be facing in this game, including the white-dressed, white-hatted vampire lady, Lady Dimitrescu, or Dimitri. Dimitrescu being sounding like a female version of Dimitri. The internet went... how do I put this? They went a little nuts for the lady and her 3 black-clad daughters who can turn themselves into swarms of insects and attack Ethan at any given moment. The internet is a strange place, and they really enjoyed this lady quite a bit. I would give you fair warning if you search her name on Twitter. You never know what you'll find. But she featured prominently in this trailer, as did the aforementioned 3 daughters. We heard mentions of names like Mother Miranda and Heisenberg. Not sure what's going on there. I do not expect a Breaking Bad crossover. That's probably just a red herring. Saw some combat, some of the creatures and the enemies that we'll be taking on. One was this big, hulking dude with a giant hammer who looked like he was going to mess me up. So that is very interesting. It showed off a inventory management system, not unlike that in Resident Evil 4, where you had a box and each item fit in a certain way in the box, so you're playing Tetris with your inventory, sort of, or Jenga, whatever you want to call it. But there's also a crafting feature in the game where you can upgrade and build items that you'll need throughout the game with things that you will find as you're in this scary town. It was confirmed to be coming to Xbox One and PlayStation 4, as well as the new Series X and PlayStation 5. So those who have not upgraded yet or are trying and can't because you can't find them, you will be able to play RE8 on day 1, which was also announced to be May the 7th. May 7 will be when Resident Evil 8 hits stores on all 4 of those consoles plus the PC. So Resident Evil fans have a lot to look forward to on May the 7th. But PlayStation 5 Resident Evil fans specifically have a lot to look forward to right now, as just after the presentation ended, a demo for Resident Evil 8, more of a side story than a demo, but it's showing you how you're going to be playing the game, called Maiden, was released on the PlayStation 5 store. You are playing not as Ethan Winters, who you'll be playing as RE8, who you played as an RE7. You'll be playing as an unnamed woman, a maiden. She's actually just known as Maiden. And your objective is to escape the dungeon that you find yourself in. You're locked in a cell when you first start, and you have to make your way out. But you cannot fight because there are no combat mechanics in this demo, nor can you block oncoming attacks. So this is very much a Alien Isolation or Haunting Ground, if we're going to stay in Capcom, sort of situation where you just have to solve the puzzles, sneak around, and get out. There's no fighting, there's no combat, there's nothing like that. You're just trying to escape as best you can, and the story will go along from there. I find that these demos, just the way the kitchen demo was, and the beginning hour, I think it was called, the demo for Resident Evil 7, the way that these tell the stories of these games or really set up the lore of these new games before they come out is very cool. So I imagine that Maiden is going to have people tearing through it piece by piece to figure out just what the heck is going on in Resident Evil 8 when it launches. The trailer really had us asking a couple of questions too. What's up with this Lady Dimitrescu? Now that the internet is in the middle of salivating over her, how do these daughters turn themselves into bugs? Why is Chris Redfield evil and taking small children? There's a lot of questions raised by these trailers, and I am very much looking forward to finding out how they play out by reading a Wikipedia page, because I'm not very good with scary games. I find them fascinating. Resident Evil is a very fascinating franchise, but scary games just can't do them. So I will not be playing this game, but I will be very much paying attention to it when it comes out in May. The showcase was not done, however. There were a couple other things that it showed off. It showed off a slight preview of the Resident Evil Infinite, I believe it's called Endless Universe or Infinite. I have to look that up while I'm reading this right now. It's the Netflix series coming the end of this year, beginning of next year. A fully CGI rendered Infinite Darkness is what it is. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. A brief preview was shown back in September, and it will be coming out sometime this year on Netflix, continuing the story of Leon Kennedy through 8 1-hour-long episodes adapted from the game. It is not out yet. Like I said, it will come out sometime this year. But that was shown off just a wee little bit, not a ton, just a small teaser of what's going on in that in this little showcase here. And then another thing that was shown was a multiplayer game celebrating the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil called Resident Evil Reverse. It is included for free with every purchased copy of Resident Evil 8 Village on all 5 systems, including PC. And it looks to be a multiplayer third-person combat game starring the characters from the Resident Evil franchise. I hesitate to say Battle Royale because it didn't look like 100 players, didn't look like a vast map with no weapons, and then you just kind of drop in and do your thing. It almost looked like just like a normal third-person shooter where you select a character. The character may have their perks or certain abilities or weapons or what have you, and then you just walked around a map and tried to get as many kills as you can or other objectives. Just looked like a third-person multiplayer shooter sort of thing from the little trailer that we saw. But the dearth of characters, or not the dearth, the bounty of characters from the 25-year history of Resident Evil was very, very cool to see. I saw Leon Kennedy, I saw Claire Redfield, I saw Mr. X, I saw Nemesis, I saw the Baker, Mr. Baker from Resident Evil 7. A ton of people are there. And I'm curious if these shooter matches, if it just is a multiplayer shooter match, will have some sort of zombie element to it. Like zombies will invade the map after a certain amount of time, kind of acting like the Circle. If it is a Battle Royale game, they'll continue to break through different placeholders and eventually get to you and kill you or hurt you or whatever it is. So I'm curious if anything like that is going to happen. And I'm curious just how deep into the lore Resident Evil will get with its character selection. Are we going to see Krauser from Resident Evil 4, or Sadler for that matter? Are we going to see any of the Code Veronica villains, like the Ashfords? Are we going to see some other heroes, like Brad Vickers? I would love to have Brad Vickers playable in this mode, just because Brad Vickers needs a little more time in the spotlight. Every time we've seen him, he's getting chomped up by somebody. Rebecca Chambers and Billy from RE0, all the different heroes, maybe some of the Outbreak cast, if we're going to talk about the Outbreak games, File 1 and File 2 on the PlayStation. So there's a lot of interesting possibilities here for this Reverse. And if it's just a celebration of the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil, and it's not, doesn't cost anything, it's free with every purchase, I'm not really going to fret if it's not good. It's not something I would have gotten anyway, and maybe it's one of those things where it launches, it has a couple issues, and then eventually it gets better. They're just trying to celebrate the franchise with a fun side project that we're going to get at no extra cost to us, and I think that's a really, really cool thing that more companies should think about, if it's cost effective, of course. I don't know how much Capcom is putting out for something like this, but it's really, really cool that they're doing it in the first place. And like I said, I'm curious to see what kind of maps and characters and weapons we'll get, to see how far into the lore they will go to give us some variety in their characters. If we only have like 10 or 12 with a couple of specials, that's fine. But if you want to get a little further and expand it a little further, or even keep expanding it if it becomes popular and keep supporting it, that'd be really cool too. The RE-verse, Reverse, whatever they're calling it, really intrigued me. One of the coolest things of the 17-minute presentation, I really, really enjoyed seeing that. It was different. It was not something I expected, and it's something that I think could end up being a lot of fun if executed properly. And then one final thing that was announced during this showcase, it is a partnership that caught a couple people off guard just because they didn't quite expect it, and that is a partnership with Ubisoft, specifically for the Division 2, where a upcoming event will give Resident Evil themed items in the Division 2, starting with Leon's outfit. It also has, it looks like Claire's outfit, a couple other stars' outfits, a couple of different costumes and other cosmetic options to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil. Really, really cool partnership, cross company partnership. I would like to see more of those in the future. And if this one is positive and they wanted to talk about maybe a Ubisoft versus Capcom in some sort of way, maybe I just really want a versus fighting game again. I don't know. I keep mentioning them in the hopes that eventually something will happen. But a Ubisoft one would be pretty cool. Ezio versus Samanosuke from Onimusha, or Ryu from Street Fighter taking on Rayman. That would be interesting. And before you say that would be silly, remember Ryu is in Super Smash Bros., so he's also fighting the likes of a giant pro wrestling cat in Incineroar, a penguin with a hammer in King Dedede, and a dog with a duck on its back. So nothing is really out of the realm of possibility here when it comes to our favorite world warrior, Ryu from Street Fighter. But that was it. That was the 17-minute presentation of the Resident Evil Showcase. A lot of cool stuff to look at for Resident Evil fans. A lot to look forward to in this brand new game. Really hasn't gotten into the story beats. A couple of hints here and there, as is to be expected. Also didn't get into anything that may be happening outside of this city church setting. I don't know if we're going to be going anywhere else, or if there's any other parts of the game that we haven't heard about yet. I imagine a lot of those announcements would be saved until it actually came out, but I am interested to see what they do with this game and the future of Resident Evil in a nutshell. Do I hope this is the end of the Resident Evil announcements? No. There is a small part of me that would love a Resident Evil 4 remake, which has been heavily rumored. Then again, those rumors were heightened by the fact that one of the teases for this showcase was a showing of the inventory management system, only for a similar system to have been announced for Resident Evil 8. So that may throw some water on those predictions for the time being. But, yeah, that is the Resident Evil Showcase. I hope you enjoyed it. You can still watch it at the official Resident Evil YouTube channel if you missed it for yourself. Also, all the trailers and everything have been taken apart. And a special congratulations to the host of the showcase, Brittany Brombacher, from What's Good Games. You might remember episode 25, I had Andrea Renee on this show. Brittany is her co-founder. Another friend of mine. She is great. She's a great person, great talent. And this is, I believe, only the first of many hosting duties you will be seeing her in the near future, because she is good at what she does. So that was the Resident Evil Showcase. Resident Evil fans should check that out. And we will be back with more on May the 7th, when Resident Evil 8 Village actually hits stores. All right, for the end of the show tonight, I figured we would do a little fun thing. Two fun things, actually. And I'm going to start with detailing and going through the history of U.S. presidents in video games. So this week, obviously, was the inauguration of our 46th president, Joe Biden. And whether you're for him or against him, it is a monumentous occasion in the country. So we should probably get into some of the presidents throughout the history of games. There are a few that come to mind, and some of them are silly, some of them are a little more serious, and some of them are kind of out there. But we'll get into a few that are really, really cool. 5, exactly, we'll get into right now. The first of which was from a little game called Citizens of Earth. It was an RPG in the style of Earthbound back in the mid-2010s. I want to say 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. Citizens of Earth and Citizens of Space was after that. And you played as the president of the world. He was just a guy who called himself the president and walked around with a big smile and waves and everything, but he also fought bad guys and recruited other people to his cause. He had some very silly repertoire and some silly little dialogue written throughout the game. Didn't quite capture the humor of the Earthbound it was going for, the Mother series, but definitely had some little cutesy elements to it. Citizens of Earth is a quirky, fun little game, and its sequel, Citizens in Space. Worth your time if you want something upbeat and silly to play with a little bit of a deep system in the RPG combat. But yeah, the president of Citizens of Earth, president of the world, I enjoy him. Also, in the same vein, the president of the world, let's not forget G from Street Fighter V, one of the most interesting Street Fighter characters in recent memory. G looks like Uncle Sam if Uncle Sam dyed his hair blonde and spent too much time in a bar. Goes on these bloviating speeches about how he is best and he's the president of the world and all this other stuff. His super move, his critical art, actually uses the I want you pose by Uncle Sam, but instead of saying I want you, he says light it up before he shoots some fire out of his fingers. And he has some weird powers where he can like light people on fire and with all this like kinetic energy. And he's actually a really, really cool fighter. So extra sixth entry into our list is G from Street Fighter V. If you haven't played as him yet and you like Street Fighter, that's definitely something that I would have you check out because G is really, really cool. Next, we're going to get into a game called Metal Wolf Chaos. You may not have heard of this game. It came out in about 2004 by the same people who made Dark Souls. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, it's one of those really difficult games and all that stuff. Actually, no, it's the exact opposite. Metal Wolf Chaos is an absolutely bonkers, crazy game where you fight as the president of the U.S., Michael Wilson, who is absolutely insane. He says things like, I'll smash you faster than a Florida recount. And then he says, I am the president of the United States of America, because that's all he really cares about, is that he's defending America. The Metal Wolf Chaos XD remake came out a little while ago, so if you want to check it on a current system, that's how you do it. My favorite of his dialogue is part of a fight where he says, come at me with all your body and soul, I will hug you to death. It's an absolutely over-the-top view of people who put far too much faith in America and American exceptionalism and stuff like that. He's just a goofy character in a goofy game and I would highly recommend you check out just for something different in Metal Wolf Chaos. Then, if we're going to get back into the retro presidents, we got to talk about President Ronnie from Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja. He is the goal of the game is to rescue the president from terrorists. The game even asks you, are you a bad enough dude to rescue Ronnie? And then at the end, he talks the very famous ending for how stupid it is. It's him sitting at his desk, and he says, hey dudes, thanks for rescuing me. Let's go for a burger. Ha, 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 ha. That's it. That's the end. And then you're standing in the South Lawn or whatever, or the White House, and dude's chomping on a burger, and you're standing there because you just rescued him. That's it. That's all you see President Ronnie. Ronnie came out in the 80s, was obviously supposed to be, Ronald Reagan or whatever. It doesn't quite look like him. But the fact that he just laughs off the fact that he was, kidnapped by bad people and had to be saved and just offers you a burger is just goofy. Goofy game. Gotta love the old NES style. Very, very cool stuff. The last two are kind of spoilery for older games. One came out in 2009, the other came out in 2001. And I'm going to give them to you in my order of preference. The first one is President John Henry Eden from Fallout 3. As you're going through the wastelands of Washington, D.C. in Fallout 3, you're hearing monologues on the radio from President Eden. He's talking about, the country, how this great nation is great and no one will take it away from me. He claims that he's from Kentucky or something like that. And he just goes on these long-winded speeches about how great America is, even in this time of nuclear war. And then you finally get to President Eden. You finally get to him in Fallout 3, and you realize that he is not a him at all. He is an AI. He is a machine with an American flag draped over it that basically was an AI from before the bombs fell, became fascinated with American history, and turned itself into an amalgamation of all of our presidents. And that's where he gets his speeches and his opinions from. It's a very weird situation, very weird turn of events. It's not something you expect. So if you haven't played Fallout 3, 13-year spoiler, or 12-year spoiler, whenever it came out, I believe it was 2009. No, 2008. It was 2008. 2007? I don't know. Late 2000s. But yes, that is an interesting twist that President Eden the entire time has been an AI machine. And then finally, when I think of presidents in video games, when I think of U.S. presidents in particular, my mind immediately goes to George Sears. George Sears is the president of America in the Metal Gear Solid series, and he's specifically Solidus Snake. So the Metal Gear Solid series, if you're not familiar, started with Big Boss, who was a mercenary who created this whole new nation called Outer Heaven, and Solid Snake was the hero that had to go and save him. But then you find out that Solid Snake and Liquid Snake, who is the main enemy of the first Metal Gear Solid, are actually clones of Big Boss in an attempt to recreate the perfect soldier. That's how the first game ends. The second one, in 2001, you meet George Sears, who is the president of the U.S., like I said, but he is also a third and actually perfect clone of Big Boss. Solid Snake and Liquid Snake were imperfect clones. George Sears, the president, Solidus Snake, was the right one. They got it right. They got the perfect clone of Big Boss right. He joins a shadowy group called the Patriots, which are these real power brokers that rule the world, and you end up fighting him on top of Federal Hall in New York City after crashing this massive underwater robot weapon called Arsenal Gear onto Manhattan Island in a very, very tense sword fight and one of the coolest boss fights of the PlayStation 2 era. George Sears, I love Metal Gear Solid in general. I love that series. It's one of my favorites of all time. So anytime I get to talk about it, I'm going to take it. And George Sears in particular was a very, very cool character that I find to be a little underrated in the Metal Gear Solid lore, both in the games that he's in and the way that he's used in future games. His mention in Metal Gear Solid 4 still kind of throws me through a loop when I think about that ending or I go back and watch the ending from time to time. That I won't spoil you on, because Metal Gear Solid 4 is a masterpiece that everybody should play. So those are some presidents, some U.S. presidents or U.S.-themed presidents throughout video game history. There aren't as many examples as you would think, but the ones that are there are really, really interesting and fun or silly or actually an AI. Some very interesting things to look into when it comes to presidents in video games. And then finally tonight, we're going to end on something a little silly. So, you may have remembered in my 6 in 60 seconds clip earlier in the day that the Halo website that kept all of the stats for the games that you played back in the day is going to be closing. Halo.bungie.net is going to be shutting down for good, unfortunately. And you have until February to go in and get your statistics and remind yourself of how you used to play back in the day, how good you were, how great you were at these games. For Halo 3 and Halo Reach specifically are on here. All you have to do is sign in with your Xbox Live account, I believe, and then you can get in there and it'll tell you all of your statistics for those older games. Doesn't tell you anything new. The last update was March 31st of 2012. But if you type in your Xbox Live username, you can actually look up all of your stats. And I really, really dig this venture back into Halo history. I took a look at the site when the news first broke, and it really blew my mind just how intense these things are. But of course, I want to do it right now and tell you all about the stats that you can find, but the website isn't working. How funny is that? I am trying to, give you something fun to do at the end of my podcast, and the dang thing doesn't want to work. So what you'll do when it does finally work is you'll go to halo.bungie.net. You'll put in your name, your gamer tag in the little place where it says find your stats, and it gives you your kill death ratios. It gives you your favorite modes. It gives you your specific performances in certain games. It gives you everything you could possibly want to know about your career as a Halo player back in the olden days, the Xbox 360 days of Halo. Halo.com or Halo Waypoint does it now for the newer games, so you can still get your information from those there. But if you want your original OG Halo 3 and ODST and Reach stats before they are lost to the ether of the internet, you have a couple of weeks to do that at halo.bungie.net before those stats are expunged forever. I am going to attempt one more time in real time. Here we go. Let's see if it'll show me my stats. And no, it actually messed up once again. So I don't think we're going to be able to do this live on the show. We will try again maybe next week. See if we can't have a more luck looking at the stats then. So let's call it a show. This has been episode number 32 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast. I hope you all enjoyed the show this evening. Went through the Resident Evil 8 showcase. Went through how Valorant is going to work when the Champions Tour starts next week. And then we got into the best presidents in video games of all time, in my opinion, or some of the best, in my opinion. Hopefully next week we can check out that Halo stats website and figure out just how bad I was at shooters back in the day. If it's anything like how bad I am at shooters now, it'll be a nice little romp for all of us to enjoy. And I hope you had a lot of fun listening to me tonight. So, once again, episode 32 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. Big thanks to our first ever sponsor, Ghost Shaver. That's ghostshaver.com to check out that razor. And big thanks to them for sponsoring this podcast, the first of hopefully many who see the value in this and want to get in. Sponsor and give us a sponsor. We are always looking for nice partners, always looking for good partners, and Ghost Shaver being first really means a lot. So thank you to them. Check them out at ghostshaver.com. I am esports and gaming insider Jason Fanelli. I wish you a great week, and I will speak to you again next week. Goodbye, ladies and gentlemen.